out of Pensacola, police arrest a military policeman for the murder of his girlfriend. Zachary Littleton is now in the Escambia County Jail. Police tell us he's a military police officer at NAS Pensacola.
On October 29, 2009, 25-year-old Samira Watkins told her sister she was going to see her boyfriend Ricky. She never came home. 5 days later, jet skiers near Pensacola Naval Air Station made a horrifying discovery. A duffel bag containing the body of a young woman, wrapped in duct tape from chin to forehead. But here's the thing about red flags. They're only obvious after it's too late. The boyfriend who called himself Ricky? That wasn't his real name. The loving relationship, built on lies that would unravel into one of the most shocking cases NCIS had ever seen. What really happened that October night? And how did a Navy police officer's desperate attempt to protect his secret life lead to murder? Stay with me, because this case has more twists than you'd expect. And the evidence that finally caught him? It was hiding in plain sight the entire time. Samira Watkins had every reason to believe in second chances. At 25, she was the oldest of 5 siblings, the one everyone looked up to. She'd clawed her way out of an abusive relationship that nearly destroyed her. And by 2009, she was finally building the life she'd always dreamed of. Working as a manager at McDonald's while studying to become a dental assistant, Samira was laser-focused on creating a better future for herself and her 4-year-old son. Her ex-boyfriend William Peters, the father of her child, had put her through hell. 5 separate police reports documented his abuse. He'd beaten her, beaten their child, and even held them prisoner in their own home. When he finally went to prison, Samira's family felt like they could breathe again. "We all felt free that relationship was over," her sister April later said. Samira was ready for a fresh start. And fresh start she got. Within 6 months, she'd been promoted to assistant manager. She was excelling in school. Most importantly, she was learning to trust again. The scared, broken woman who'd endured years of violence was transforming into someone confident and hopeful. Then came that summer day in 2009 when she visited Pensacola Naval Air Station, home of the Blue Angels, where over 14,000 military personnel were stationed. As she approached the main gate, she had to show her ID to the security guard on duty. His name, he told her, was Ricky. Here's the first red flag nobody caught. He gave her a fake name. His real name was Zachary Littleton, but to Samira, he would always be Ricky. Why would a Navy police officer, sworn to uphold truth and justice, start a relationship with a lie? Because he was already living one. But Samira didn't know that. All she saw was a handsome man in uniform, someone who represented safety, stability, everything her abusive ex wasn't. When Ricky asked her out, she couldn't stop talking about him to her family. For Samira, this felt like divine intervention. She'd come from a military town where every girl knows you get a military guy. Here was her knight in shining armor, or so she thought. Their summer romance was everything she'd been missing. Ricky was charming, attentive, seemingly devoted. After years of walking on eggshells around William Peters, this relationship felt safe. Her family noticed the change immediately. By fall, Samira was glowing with happiness. She'd even updated her MySpace status to say she felt blessed. Life was finally good. Then came the news that would change everything. She was pregnant. At first, it seemed like another blessing. Samira wanted a bigger family with the right person. Ricky seemed like that person. Her family was thrilled. But here's where the red flag should have been impossible to ignore. The moment she told Ricky about the pregnancy, everything changed. The loving, attentive boyfriend became distant, cold, almost hostile. Ricky wanted her to get an abortion. He pressured her, argued with her, made it clear this pregnancy was unwanted. But Samira held firm. She was keeping this baby. That's when the second massive red flag appeared. With help from a friend in the military, Samira discovered the truth that shattered everything. Ricky wasn't just Ricky. His real name was Zachary Littleton. And he wasn't single. He was married with a young daughter. The man she'd trusted had been living a complete lie from day one. Worse yet, his wife was scheduled to transfer to Pensacola in just days. But even then, love made her vulnerable to one final, fatal mistake. When Zachary reached out in late October, claiming he wanted to make things work for the baby's sake, Samira allowed herself to hope once more. October 29th, 2009 started like any other day for Samira Watkins. She completed her McDonald's shift, came home, and began getting ready for what she thought would be a reconciliation with the father of her unborn child. She had no idea she was walking into the final hours of her life. The phone call came that evening. Zachary Littleton, still Ricky to her, wanted to talk. Despite discovering his lies about his name and marriage, Samira held on to hope. When someone you love says they want to make things work for the baby's sake, it's hard to say no. Her sister Sylvia was already in bed when Samira asked for a ride. "I was too tired," Sylvia would later recall, with heartbreaking regret. So Samira drove herself, telling her family she'd be back later that night. She never came home. Zachary Littleton was operating under intense pressure that night. His wife and daughter were scheduled to arrive in Pensacola in less than a week. He'd secured a larger house for his family, preparing for his double life to finally end. But there was one major problem: Samira Watkins and the baby she was carrying. In the military, adultery is a punishable offense. Zachary could lose rank, face court-martial, destroy his career. Now there would be a child as permanent evidence of his infidelity. For a man who'd built his existence on lies and compartmentalization, this threatened everything. The next morning, when Samira didn't return home, her family knew something was wrong. Samira was responsible, reliable, always checked in. When her phone went straight to voicemail, panic set in. Sylvia and their cousin Jasmine drove to Zachary's apartment around noon. What they found was a massive red flag. Less than 12 hours after Samira disappeared, her boyfriend had suddenly, mysteriously vanished from his apartment. His neighbors reported seeing him loading a couch onto a truck, claiming he needed a bigger place for his wife and kids. When someone you're involved with disappears the same night you do, that's not coincidence. That's consciousness of guilt. Detective Jonathan Thacker caught the case the next day. When he learned the missing woman's boyfriend had 2 different names and had mysteriously moved out immediately after her disappearance, he knew this was serious. But when Thacker called the number Samira's family provided, he got his first taste of Zachary Littleton's web of lies. "Hey, how you doing? Is this Ricky?" This is Zachary Littleton. Right from that first call, Littleton was evasive, defensive. When asked about Samira, he initially claimed not to recognize her name, as if she were some casual acquaintance rather than the woman carrying his child. 2 days after Samira's disappearance, Thacker brought Littleton in for questioning. Littleton minimized their relationship, claiming they were just friends. He denied she was pregnant with his child. He lied about his whereabouts the night she disappeared. The most damning lie was about his alibi. Littleton claimed he was home all night packing for his move. But Detective Thacker didn't know yet what would later destroy Littleton's story. Between October 20th and October 29th, there were 47 calls between Samira and a secret burner phone Littleton had purchased for his affairs. 11 calls happened on October 29th alone. The last call was at 10:37 p.m. from a cell tower minutes away from Zachary's apartment. So much for "she never showed up." That question would be answered horrifically just hours later, when 2 jet skiers made a discovery that would transform this missing person case into a murder investigation. November 3rd, 2009. 2 jet skiers near Pensacola Naval Air Station spotted something horrifying. A large black duffel bag floating near the shore, about 200 yards from the base entrance. The smell hit them first. Then they saw what looked like blood seeping through the fabric. 911 emergency. "Yeah, this is Navy Point. We think we found a dead body. It's in a bag, a big old like bag you carry on a trip. Looks like it has blood on it." Detective Jonathan Thacker was among the first to arrive. What he found inside that duffel bag would change everything. Inside of this bag, in the fetal position, was the body of a black female, Thacker recalled. It would end up being Samira Watkins. She had duct tape wrapped from her chin up to just below her eyeballs, all the way around her head. She was clothed only in a bra. She was otherwise nude. The medical examiner's findings were chilling. Samira had died from asphyxiation. Someone had suffocated her, then wrapped her head in multiple layers of duct tape to ensure she was dead. The killer had stripped her nearly naked, stuffed her into a duffel bag, and dumped her in the water like garbage. But the bag contained additional evidence that revealed calculated cover-up. Along with Samira's body, investigators found a crumpled paper towel and several disinfectant wipes. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was methodical. The killer had cleaned up after himself, gathered his cleaning supplies, and disposed of everything together. When Zachary Littleton heard a body had been found, his reaction was telling. Instead of showing concern for the woman supposedly carrying his child, he seemed worried about himself. "I seen it come across the news that they had found a body," he later said. "I didn't think she was missing at all. I think she was just pulling a stunt to get my attention. I felt like I'm in the middle of a beehive that I don't know how to get out of. Notice what's missing." Any expression of sorrow or concern for Samira or their unborn child. Instead, Littleton painted himself as the victim. The autopsy revealed another crucial detail. When the medical examiner removed the duct tape from Samira's head, they noticed she was wearing only one gold hoop earring. The other was missing. According to Samira's family, these earrings had sentimental value. She wore them everywhere. Surveillance footage from McDonald's showed her wearing both earrings when she left work the night she disappeared. Somewhere out there was a gold hoop earring that could potentially link the killer directly to the crime scene. The discovery transformed the investigation completely. This was now about brutal, premeditated murder. The last call between Samira and Littleton's burner phone happened at 10:37 p.m. on October 29th, connecting through a cell tower less than a quarter mile from his apartment. Despite his claims that she never showed up, the evidence clearly showed Samira had made it to his neighborhood that night. That call would be the last time anyone heard from Samira Watkins alive. With Samira's body recovered and Zachary Littleton caught in multiple lies, investigators knew they had their prime suspect. But proving murder against a Navy police officer who understood how investigations worked would require systematically dismantling his carefully constructed alibi. The first crack came from Littleton's own friend. Mark Gustashaw had agreed to help Zachary move on October 30th, just hours after Samira disappeared. What he found destroyed one of Littleton's key alibis. "Zachary called me and said, 'Can you help me move tomorrow morning?'" Gustashaw recalled. "He assured me everything would be packed and ready to go, and it could not have been further from the truth. There was literally nothing packed. You walked in the apartment, and even his clothes were still on the dresser. His food was still in the fridge." Remember, Littleton claimed he was home all night packing for his move, but when his friend arrived, nothing had been prepared. Where were the boxes? Where was any evidence of packing? That same morning brought another suspicious revelation. At 5 a.m., just hours after Samira's disappearance, Zachary had shown up at a female friend's house asking to do laundry. At 5 o'clock in the morning, after supposedly spending all night packing. Why would someone need emergency laundry at dawn? Unless he needed to wash away evidence. Meanwhile, Detective Thacker uncovered more contradictory evidence. A neighbor witnessed an argument in the parking lot on October 29th between a man and woman. The woman was standing against a red vehicle, consistent with Samira's red Ford Taurus. The neighbor heard the woman telling the man to calm down. This placed Samira at Littleton's apartment complex, directly contradicting his claim that she never showed up. The next day, Samira's car was found abandoned 10 miles away. Inside the glove compartment was a letter from her doctor congratulating her on her pregnancy. A heartbreaking reminder of the life cut short. But how did her car end up so far away? NCIS stepped in with groundbreaking technology. For the first time in NCIS history, they used cell tower mapping to track both Samira and Zachary's movements on the night she disappeared. The results were damning. The cell tower analysis showed both phones moving toward Littleton's apartment around the same time, proving they were together despite his denials. More incriminating, the data showed Zachary's phone left his apartment area in the early morning hours and didn't return until 4:30 a.m., exactly when someone would need to dispose of a body and dump a car across town. But how did he get back? Detective Thacker called every taxi company in Pensacola. One had a record of a 4:20 a.m. pickup from a Waffle House near where Samira's car was found. The passenger's name, Zach. Surveillance footage from the Waffle House was the final nail in the coffin. There was Zachary Littleton at 4:20 a.m., carrying a container of Clorox wipes, the same type found in the duffel bag with Samira's body. At one point, he looked directly into the security camera. November 6th, 2009. Armed with a search warrant, investigators descended on Zachary Littleton's new house. Detective Thacker had one item at the top of his list: Samira's missing gold hoop earring. As detectives combed through the house, Littleton watched nervously, a stark contrast to his previous confident demeanor. He knew what they might find. Then it happened. In a bedroom, tucked inside a plastic comforter bag, investigators found exactly what they were looking for. Sure enough, during the search, one of our detectives located that matching earring, Thacker recalled. It matched in appearance exactly to the earring that Samira was missing. When confronted with this damning evidence, Littleton made a desperate attempt to explain it away. He made a spontaneous statement that, "That's my wife's," which none of us believed. This was the smoking gun? How does a man who claims he barely knew Samira end up with her most prized possession? But the earring wasn't the only evidence. Investigators discovered paper towels with a distinctive pattern, purple and blue birds with flowers, that matched exactly the paper towel found in the duffel bag with Samira's body. They found containers of Clorox wipes, consistent with those used to clean up the crime scene. The earring itself told a story of violence. Testing revealed Samira's DNA on it, and the clasp was broken, suggesting it had been torn from her ear during a struggle. At this point, Littleton stopped talking entirely, but investigators had one more devastating piece of evidence: Littleton's computer search history. On October 29th, the very day Samira disappeared, Littleton had researched how to speed up human decomposition. He'd also searched for abortion clinics and how to pass a polygraph test. On the same day Samira was murdered, her killer was researching how to make her body decompose faster. Zachary Littleton had painted himself into a corner. His wife would arrive within days. His double life was about to be exposed. And there was Samira, pregnant with his child, refusing to disappear quietly. For a man who had built his life on lies and compartmentalization, murder seemed like the solution. On November 23, 2009, investigators arrested Zachary Littleton for first-degree murder. The evidence was overwhelming: the lies, the destroyed alibi, the surveillance footage, the cleaning supplies, and most damning of all, Samira's earring in his possession. Justice for Samira Watkins was finally within reach. June 27, 2011. Almost 2 years after Samira's brutal murder, Zachary Littleton finally faced justice in an Escambia County courtroom. Her family filled the gallery, desperate for answers and closure. Prosecutor Bridget Jensen knew she had a challenging case ahead. The case was circumstantial. There was no confession. There was really any direct evidence. But she had something powerful, a mountain of lies that painted a clear picture of guilt. Littleton's demeanor during trial was telling. Family members noticed his complete lack of remorse or concern. The prosecution methodically presented their case, piece by damning piece. The fake identity, the secret burner phone, the destroyed alibi, the cell tower data, placing him away from his apartment during the crucial hours. But it was the computer searches that left the jury stunned. Then came the surveillance footage from the Waffle House. Jurors watched as Littleton walked in at 4:20 a.m., carrying Clorox wipes, the same type found with Samira's body. At one point, he looked directly into the camera, giving investigators a perfect shot of his face. The defense had little to work with. How do you explain away a victim's earring in your client's possession? How do you justify internet searches about decomposition on the day of the murder? How do you account for being caught on camera at the exact time and place consistent with dumping evidence? They couldn't. Littleton never took the stand, leaving his police interviews as the only record of his voice. Interviews filled with lies, contradictions, and a chilling lack of concern for a murdered pregnant woman. After 3 days of testimony, the jury began deliberations. The wait wasn't long. After just 3 hours, the jury returned with their verdict: guilty. First-degree premeditated murder. For Samira's family, the verdict was bittersweet. Justice had been served, but it couldn't bring back the sister, daughter, and mother they'd lost. Zachary Littleton was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In Florida, life means life, no chance of ever walking free again. Even as he was led away in shackles, Littleton maintained his innocence. But his lies had finally caught up with him, and the evidence had spoken louder than his denials. Even after his conviction, Zachary Littleton couldn't stop lying. Nearly a decade later, sitting in his prison cell serving life without parole, he granted his first television interview to CBS News. What he told them was perhaps his most audacious lie yet. "I know I'm innocent," Littleton declared from behind bars. "I know there's a God. I know he's a miracle worker." For the first time since his arrest, Littleton admitted he had lied to police about his whereabouts the night Samira disappeared. But his new version was just as calculated as his original lies. "That night, I told the police I was at home all night packing," he said. "I was with Samira, in truth." According to Littleton's new story, Samira came to his apartment. They talked and had sex, then decided to get food at Waffle House. During the drive, she became angry and kicked him out of the car. This narrative was carefully crafted to explain away evidence. Why he was at the Waffle House at 4 a.m., why he had cleaning wipes, why cell tower data showed their phones together. But investigators saw right through it. So, according to Littleton, a pregnant woman angry enough to kick him out thoughtfully threw cleaning supplies at him, and he dutifully picked them up at 4 a.m. The most telling part wasn't what he said, it's what he didn't say. Even after nearly a decade in prison, Littleton showed no grief for Samira or their unborn child, no sympathy for her family, no acknowledgement of the life he'd destroyed. Instead, he painted himself as the victim of a flawed investigation. This final interview revealed the same narcissistic, manipulative personality that had driven him to murder. Zachary Littleton believed his own lies, thought he could charm his way out of any situation. But the evidence didn't lie. Zachary Littleton had killed Samira Watkins in cold blood, disposed of her body like garbage, and spent years constructing elaborate lies. He remained exactly what he had always been: a liar, a manipulator, and a killer who believed his own twisted version of reality. Justice had been served, and Samira Watkins could finally rest in peace. Samira Watkins was just like so many of us. She wanted love, safety, and to believe the person she cared about was genuine. But the warning signs were there, quiet whispers that something wasn't right. Looking back, it's easy to see the red flags now. But when you're falling for someone, when you want desperately to trust, those signs can feel like small clouds in an otherwise sunny sky. The false name from day one. The complete personality shift when real responsibility appeared. The secret phone, the mysterious moving, the lack of genuine emotion when crisis hit. Each flag was a breadcrumb on a trail that led to tragedy. But here's what haunts me most. Samira saw some of these flags. She discovered his lies, learned about his marriage, felt his distance when she needed him most. Yet love made her vulnerable to one final fatal hope, when he reached out claiming he wanted to make things work. We've all been there, haven't we? That moment when someone who hurt us comes back with just the right words, just enough promise to make us believe things could be different. Sometimes, the most dangerous moment isn't when we first meet someone. It's when we go back after seeing who they really are. If someone lies about their identity, pressures you into life-changing decisions, disappears when things get complicated, shows no genuine emotion during your pain, those aren't small imperfections. Those are glimpses into their character. Your intuition often knows before your heart is ready to accept it. That uncomfortable feeling when something doesn't add up, when their story changes, when actions don't match words. That's not paranoia. That's wisdom trying to protect you. Samira was a devoted mother, a hard worker, a woman who'd survived abuse and was building something beautiful from the ashes. She deserved honesty. She deserved safety. She deserved love that didn't come with lies attached. Her 4-year-old son grew up without his mother. Her family lost their beloved sister. All because one man chose deception over truth, violence over accountability. The red flags were there. They're always there. The question is, will we have the courage to see them? And more importantly, will we have the strength to walk away when we do? Samira's story isn't just about one terrible night in 2009. It's about the warning signs that could save your life today. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear this. Someone needs to know that love shouldn't hurt, trust shouldn't require blindness, and safety should never be negotiable. Her voice was silenced, but her story continues to speak. Listen to it, learn from it, and never, ever ignore those red flags. They might just save your life.